Okay, more beginners home videos. Um, Stuck. What is it like getting stuck when you're having to work at home and you're used to being a social animal and you're used to recharging with other people and maybe you got a spiritual life, you got some resources to draw on. Well, how do you deal with being stuck? Um, some of you know, if you've maybe read my book, Geeky Tips on Whole Consciousness, or you've seen some of my stuff, you know that I suggest having tools for multiple levels of life. Like sometimes we're not in a place of being really present or inspired or connected or loving or any of that. And sometimes we're just in a really emotional place. Or sometimes we're in a very intentional place, like we're just focused on getting something done. And, so I'm going to briefly play with those three things, the great states, the limited small states, and the in between, the more intentional, I have to get it over it states. um, so when I'm just in an emotional place and I'm trying to get unstuck, when I'm trying to get back into motion, what I have done sometimes is I've played with combining a few tools from emotional healing work. Like in the Sedona method, it'll talk about look for an underlying wanting and allow and release that to get unstuck. And in something like A Course in Miracles, it'll say look for an underlying fear and release that fear to get unstuck. And or to get free or to get loving or peaceful. I mean, there's lots of benefits to these tools. But here I'm just talking about you're working at home, you got stuff to do. Or you're in stay at home, you got stuff to do. Feeling a bit paralyzed, just having trouble getting in motion. And what I'm suggesting you do is what I've done is you play with taking the choice that you're not doing and the choice that you are going to do, like in a priority setting, and using different tools on each one. Like for the thing that I'm letting go of, say it's Facebook or watching Star Trek videos or whatever, floats your boat, that there I'm going to look for an underlying wanting and allow and release that feeling of wanting. Like right now, think of something that you'd rather be doing rather than, a constructive task, a productive task, something you do impulsively. And notice right now the feeling of wanting to do that. And just let that be a feeling. Like I want it as much as I do right now. And I let myself have that to the point where I'm not resisting it. And then I let it go to the point where I'm not holding on to it. And I will do that more than once. Like I will let myself feel whatever I'm feeling right now about that. Like without resistance. And then again, let go of the right now feeling. As if there's nothing that I really need to hold on to there. And you do that until you've got some inner peace about that choice. And for the thing that you're moving towards, the productive, the constructive choice, there I will allow and release an underlying fear. Because again, goal is to get into motion. So what is there that I'm anxious about or stressed about or have a fear-based feeling around? And allow that feeling, or if you can distinguish the underlying fear, if you can get in tune with the underlying fear, allow that. Let that be a feeling right now, however much it's here, like I'm not resisting it. And then letting it go, as if there's nothing there that I really need to hold on to. Like I'm really going to be okay if I let go of that, like without clinging. And again, allow whatever the right now feeling is without resisting, and releasing the right now feeling without clinging. And once I've, let go of an underlying wanting around the thing that I'm moving on from and let go of an underlying fear regarding the thing I'm moving towards, I find that it's much easier to get back into motion. And that's when I'm in a simply emotional place. When I'm in a more intentional place, I'm not really in my feelings much, but I'm struggling with getting things done, then I'll do an approach that might even seem the opposite of what I just described. And that is that I'm going to choose the choice I'm choosing, and I'm going to choose the feelings that I have. Like whatever I've got, I'm choosing what I've got. If I happen to be stressed, great. If I happen to be angry, great. If I happen to be neutral, like not feeling much at all, great. If I happen to be enthusiastic, great. And if that changes, great. Whatever my feelings are that I have, choose the feelings that I have. Like it's what I've got, I'm choosing what I've got. And so I'm choosing the choice, and I'm choosing what comes with it. And that's a very simple approach, to have it be that it's not a big deal. I'm just choosing what I'm doing, choosing to do what I'm doing while I'm doing it, and I'm just choosing to have the experience that I'm having while I'm having it. So that's a non-healing approach, but it works. You get into motion. Now, if you are in a place where you can tune into some inner resources, then, I've talked about some of these tools, like giving myself a moment to be aware, noticing that who I am is the one being aware, letting myself be present as the one who is present, taking that the next step, letting myself be present as the one who is presence. And as I know myself as the one who is presence, then there's a bunch of resources that become available, like getting related to the task and maybe going through some basic ways of being. Now, I'm going to go through some basic ways of being right now, and you may recognize these from varied spiritual contexts. Like I'm going to go through 8 of them. Like you start with getting grounded in the task. Like I'm just getting in the neighborhood. I'm sitting down. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at something else. I'm moving my hand on the mouse or on the page and the pencil, whatever. I'm in motion, just physical motion, getting familiar with the neighborhood, getting basically in touch with stuff that even if I don't have a plan of action yet, that's just what I'm doing. And then you start to get creative, and creativity means you're starting to do something, but creativity allows you certain randomness. So you don't have to be in the second phase of being creative. The possibility of being grounded, you're just getting familiar. The possibility of being creative, you're starting to have something happen, but you don't need to worry about whether you're doing the right thing to begin with. Give yourself 5 minutes to 15 minutes of just getting a little random with it, just to get yourself started. And then you can start to get selective. Once you're in motion, then you can start to move on to the next possibility of being, which is the possibility of being effective. And you start to be a little less random. You start to be more selective, like, okay, what would really be a productive way to use my time right now? And then it starts to feel purposeful. It starts to be heartfelt. It starts to be, then you start to have access to the possibility of being loving. And, purposeful is a form of love for me. I'm doing something that makes a difference in the world. And from then on, I'm going to go briefly into some other ways of being, but you start to get into the fulfilling states. You start to have things work. There's just might be a sense of abundance there. There might be some joy there. You start to just kind of be aware, to witness what's going on. That starts to be a fulfilling state of being. You start to feel connected to what's up, how you're operating, and what you're doing, and that these are fulfilling states. Realize that this is not just fulfilling in the sense of feelings and being, it's also fulfilling in the sense of, I've made myself a promise, I'm going to fulfill on that promise. And there's a sense of fulfillment there. But the thing to understand when you're starting to be in these fulfilling states with a task, getting into the flow that way, is that the fulfilling states may come later. Like it doesn't start out that way, and that's okay. So it has something in common with the accepting the feelings that you got, like choosing what I've got, choosing the feeling, choosing the state of being that's here, choosing what's working. So I hope some of this has been helpful. I hope that it's something that you can play with in your own way, because we all have our variations of our favorite toys. And hope you all are having a great stay at home. Take care. Love is. Bye.